Hey guys, Mr. Happy here, and today I want to do another gear-related video for Final Fantasy XIV. Now, when I posted my last gearing video, it was about best-in-slot Bard gear. You know, Bard is the job that I play in progression rating, and I've read through the comments, and a lot of people are asking for different best-in-slot videos for other jobs other than Bard, you know. But one comment caught my attention over the rest, and it was that someone was specifically asking for talking about the quote-unquote gearing up process, because a best-in-slot list, it really only matters for people who have every piece of gear available to them. You know, people who are clearing turns 6, 7, 8, and 9, in at least this case for patch 2.2. People who get Soldiery capped every week, people who are beating Leviathan Extreme and Mogomog Extreme. It really is more beneficial to those, whereas gearing up is a totally different thing because usually you have to make sacrifices based on the drops that you do get. So before making any more best in slot videos, I definitely agree it would be more beneficial to make a video about the actual gearing up process and the steps that you can take to make sure that you don't end up in a weird situation with the gear you buy. So anyway, again, using Ariala.com for this video, since it's by far the tightest way, especially with this new compact view. If you watch this video as compared to the old one, I can even just click compact view. As you can see, it's so tidy. It's the best tool for me to use to compare gear, so it's the one I'm using. If you would like to use it too to work on best in slots and upgrading your gear, then there's a link for the description in the video below. So anyway, the big question, how does a player go about selecting the pieces of gear they want to aim for? Now, of course, you have two selections. You have gear that drops and gear you can buy with your tomestones, whatever the most recent tomestone is for the patch. And it really comes down to a couple of things. The first is that what kind of content are you actually doing? I mean, if you aren't doing coil, it's really hard to know what to spend your tomestones on. We'll go over it, but it definitely limits your choices a lot more. And the second is, what gear do you have now? I mean, do you have some side grades for pieces in case you need to change things around to make a new set of armor to work? I mean, for example, what if you needed more accuracy going into turn 6? Do you have, let's see, what do we got here? Do you have Heroes Bracelets of Aiming instead of your Inferno Bangles? Like, oh, I need more accuracy. Let me just switch to this. Do you have those side grades available to you? It really helps if you do. So again, it's all about the content that you've done and are currently planning on doing. So we'll work with that right now. In preparation for the explanation, as you can see, I do have a bigger list of gear here. This is including basically what a Bard best in slot list would look like prior to patch 2.2, a patch 2.1 best in slot list. And we're going to go over going up to patch 2.2. So, as you can see here, the set is 100% prepared for the turn 5 accuracy requirement. At the bottom, you have the 481 accuracy requirement. And accuracy really is the most important thing you need to watch for when doing your upgrades. Since turns 6 through 9 require more accuracy than turns 1 through 5, your first goal should be to identify how much accuracy you need. So for any new patch, before you actually know how much accuracy you need, rearranging your gear to have higher accuracy is a top priority. And as an offstat, accuracy always holds the highest requirement before any other stat. So if you're planning to do an upgrade that will cost you accuracy, you really need to make sure it won't hinder you. It's not always as simple as, and I've been guilty of telling people this too, weapon, body, or legs first. In this case, weapon, because there are now weapons that can be gotten with mostly soldiery tomes. I mean, as a heads up, by the way, since we are talking about accuracy requirements, for turn 9 in this patch, the most accuracy I've seen that you've needed, it seemed to be about 470 for Black Mages, 491 for Summoners, 494 I think for physical DPS from the rear and the flank, and 513 accuracy from the front of the boss. This is just what we've seen and what other roles in my party have told me they've been seeing 100% success with thus far. Yes, enemies do have different accuracy requirements depending on which side of them you are facing. This was in patch 2.0 as well. Twintanya even has different accuracy requirements for each side. The snakes have higher accuracy requirements for each side, but it wasn't as detrimental to try and hit these higher accuracy caps. There's a lot of points where physical DPS might end up in front of an enemy, especially Twintanya because she's turning a lot. So I always just recommended having 481 for all sides. But this patch, it makes a little bit more sense to kind of aim for specific fights and be able to change gear out, as I said in my Bard best in slot video. So the front, by the way, always has the highest accuracy requirement. Sorry, tanks. But anyway, moving on, let's play out an example with the gear set I have here so you can understand what my thought process would be based on this specific event that I've sort of planned out with this set of gear. So I do also have the best in slot list right here that I made from before. I did switch one thing around where instead of the high elegant bracelets of aiming, I do have the auroral wristlets to go for the frontal accuracy. I have a little bit more than I need right here, but still, we'll go with that. So anyway, moving on, let's play out this example. So the old Bard shirt, for example, let's say you have 900 soldiery tomestones. You know, you've been saving up for 2 weeks, you got 900 soldiery tomestones, and you were originally thinking about buying maybe the body or the legs. So you looked at your best in slot list and you saw, okay, the body is best in slot, so I should probably get that. But you got to pay a little bit more attention. The Bard shirt, the old one, had 24 accuracy on it. So let's say you wanted to go to the Auroral Tavern. You are now sitting at 457 accuracy. That's not even enough for turn 5. That's not even enough for turn 5, I think, from the side and the flank. I think you still need more than that for the side and the flank. So that's definitely not going to help you when it comes to turns 6, 7, 8, and 9. So realistically, losing that 24 accuracy is a lot worse than actually gaining the amount of stats you get from going from item level 90 to 100. So should I spend the points here? Probably not. I mean, it's the same deal with the legs if we scroll down. The old legs had 34 accuracy, so you're not going to go to the weathered auroral braze here. You're going to lose 34 accuracy. You really can't afford that as a first upgrade. It's going to hinder you severely, especially if you're doing this before going into turn 6. So, and the weapon, by the way, the weapon, you can't even get the weapon unless you're already beating turn 7. So, yes, if turn 7 is a realistic goal for you, you would definitely probably want to consider the weapon. But even then, you got to remember, you're losing a ton of accuracy going to the Rosenbogen. So, you really got to pay attention to accuracy here. If turn 6 and 7 are going down for you quickly, and you know you're going to be able to get the weathered Rosenbogen, then it's a good first spend on the points, especially because it takes 3 weeks worth of soldiery points to get enough tokens in order to buy the Rosenbogen. So, you'd have an additional week for this. But, again, let's just say that that's not an option. You're still just going into turn 6. Well, let's look at some of the other options you have. So we go back to the best in slot list, and you see that the Auroral Sash is one of your options. You know, the belt isn't a bad option. It's not only going to be best in slot eventually, but it's just a net gain on stats. Obviously, you go right from, if you look at the old set, the Hero's Belt of Aiming, which is crit and determination and dex, to the Auroral Sash, the weathered one, which is more crit, more determination, and more dex. It's just a flat upgrade. Now, the only thing that you have to remember here is that you still don't have any additional accuracy for turn 6. So let's look elsewhere first. Let's look to spend our first bit of soldiery points on accuracy. So the earrings are another good choice here. So let's find the earrings right here. So you're at trademark earrings aiming in this example. And you know you could buy the weathered auroral earrings to get one more accuracy, which isn't that great. You'll get crit instead of determination, and you'll get the dex. You know, it's not a bad choice. But one thing you definitely want to notice, and this is something that is really hard to do when a patch is first out. It usually takes about a week or two for this to get realized. You notice that the high elegant earrings of aiming drop from turn 6 or second coil of Bahamut turn 1. So what if those drop? You know you're going to use these, the item level 110 earrings, over the item level 100 earrings unless you don't have the accuracy for it. So maybe we shouldn't chance getting the earrings first in case when we do turn 6 if these drop on the first week. So moving on to wrists. Wrists, another solid choice. In fact, the wrists are one of your more solid choices. Wrists or ring are really awesome choices. I mean, the wristlets, plenty of accuracy. You got 19 accuracy and 13 critical hit rate, so those are a solid upgrade. If you were to go to those, you'd have 501 accuracy, which for turn 6 is more than sufficient. However, you also have the option, and this is always a safe option, is upgrading your ring. Now, you have 2 rings, one's crit skill speed, one's crit determination. Let's get rid of the crit skill speed. Go right to the weathered auroral ring. Now, that's 12 accuracy upgrade, and you know what? No matter what, this piece will never get sidetracked. You know, you'll never get to a point in patch 2.2 where you're like, oh, well, I'm going to replace my auroral ring when you eventually upgrade it. That's not going to happen because there's no other rings available. The only other ring available is the high elegant one, and that's going to go alongside of it. So this is a very safe first upgrade in this situation for Bard. Now, one thing to keep in mind, you only spent 375 soldiery, so you still got 525 left out of the 900. So let's buy something else. I mean, again, you could go back and buy the belt, which, again, we've said is a flat upgrade. But really, I'd still say going for the wristlets in this case would be more important. Again, you're getting more accuracy, you're getting more dex, and this piece, again, will eventually be best in slot. So you're making a safe choice. And on top of that, if you still haven't beaten turn 6, you don't have to worry about getting high elegant bracelets of aiming from turn 2. You could get an oil of time from turn 7 instead and just upgrade your auroral wristlets. So it's pretty much an equivalent state where getting these as your second item in this case would be beneficial. So let's go with the weathered auroral wristlets. And that's all we did. We didn't beat turn 6 this week. We had 900 soldiery. We spent, 750 of it. We got a ring upgrade and a wristlet upgrade. So let me just make the changes here. Weathered auroral ring. Okay, we're now sitting at 511 accuracy. So since we've already said 513 is the cap, we're actually looking at a pretty good start right now. So anyway, let's move on. Let's go to the next week. Let's fast forward a week. Now let's say the following week you clear turn 6, you get your Moggle neck piece as well. So let's go Ribbon of Aiming right here, just for the sake of the upgrades. You beat turn 6 and you got your soldiery cap. So you're sitting at 600 soldiery tomestones now, so with the 150 that was left over from last week. Turn 6 was super lucky for you. Let's say you got the earrings and the boots. Let's just say those were your drops. I don't know if those dropped from a different chest, but let's just say that's what you got. So you got High Elegant Boots of Aiming. Those dropped. They have a nice, sweet 25 accuracy. And the earrings, you're going to have 13 accuracy. So you lost a little bit, but you had a net gain because of this 25 accuracy you just gained, plus all the decks that you just gained. So you're now sitting at a very sweet 533 accuracy. That's very, very nice. So with that in mind, you got 600 soldiery to spend. So let's try and figure out where we're going to spend this soldiery in this scenario. So you check back with your best in slot list and you look at your first options. So you've got 600 points. Your Royal Tabard is now looking like a much sweeter deal. Now that you have all this additional accuracy from the set, the 533, you're like, I could go with the Weathered Royal Tabard. Yeah, I'd have 509 accuracy. That's still pretty close to what the cap is going to be in turns 8 and 9. So I'm actually pretty close with the food that I'm using. So that's one option, but 600 points isn't enough. You're going to need next week's tomestones to get that too. So let's just keep it at the Bard shirt. Again, your other option is the belt. Now, one thing about the belt you got to remember, sure, you could buy this for what, you could buy this for $375 and you'll have $225 left over the following week. But what if the next week High Elegant Belt of Aiming drops on turn 1? You really got to pay attention to what drops come from the earlier turns here, because if those drop, if you don't upgrade this to a full Auroral Sash, then the High Elegant Belt of Aiming is going to be better until you do upgrade it with a Sand of Time, which you can't get until turn 8 anyway. So while you can get this now and you'll be like, yes, if you get this the following week when you do turn 6 again, because you're pretty sure you're going to beat it, you're going to beat yourself over the head for spending the soldiery points. So with the remaining soldiery points, I'd say in a situation like this where you're kind of worried you're going to get a drop from an early turn and you're going to spend your points irrationally, just save them. Just save your tomestones until the following week when you're done progressing with Coil. If you are not going to beat a turn for a week, then you know that you're probably okay to buy it now. But if you know the very next week it could possibly come right away, and there's no way of you getting an upgrade, and then it'll just have been wasted soldiery points, it's not worth doing. So let's just, again, fast forward to next week. Now, let's say next week you beat 6 and 7. 6 had no drops for you, so you didn't get the belt, so you kind of beating yourself up for not spending the points. But turn 7 dropped your Bard Elegant Gloves. Let's go to Gloves. That's another 10 accuracy on top of what you had before. You are now sitting at a very sound 544 accuracy. This immediately means you're okay. You're good to go. You can get that body piece. You got the spare soldiery points. You are good to go. Weathered Royal Tabard sitting at a nice 519 accuracy. 6 more than you would need if you were a tank for turn 9. And that means that if you're more comfortable running with lower than that because you're not going to be in front of the boss, you're more than okay for turn 8. You're way ahead of turn 8. So you now have a few additional soldiery points and you have all this gear that you've already accrued. And on top of that, now you start making weapon upgrades too. Maybe you got your Tidal Wave Bow this week. Tidal Wave Bow, 1 more accuracy, some more crit. Really, really nice upgrade, 520 accuracy. See, that's what it's all about. It's all about focusing on accuracy until you know you have enough of it, and then focusing on your other side grades. Luckily, a lot of the Bard gear in this patch, and a lot of the best in slot Bard gear does have accuracy. So keep in mind, it really all comes down to what drops for you. If you are not getting any drops and you're just saving your soldiery points, that's fine. That's really okay, because gear is really more of a reward in this patch than it is a requirement. I can't stress that enough. In patch 2.2, gear is more of a reward than a requirement. You don't need super high gear to do most of the content. So if you want to save those points until it's absolutely vital that you start spending them before you hit the 2,000 Tomestone Soldiery cap, then that is okay. If you end up wanting to buy Weathered Auroral Boots because it's been 8 weeks since you got your High Elegant Aiming Boots, that's fine. It's just all about not just automatically assuming you have to get body, legs, or your weapon first. That is really the most important thing of the gearing up process. After that, you can start focusing on more important stats. Like once you start going a few weeks with getting clears of Coil and maybe finishing up your Moggle and your Leviathan stuff, you've upgraded your Animus maybe, you got all this additional gear available to you, then you can start saying, well, I can get more crit from, like for example here, let's go to the legs. you've been doing week after week after week, you haven't seen your high Allegan breaches of aiming. But you could buy your Weathered Auroral Braze. They're not as good, but the dex increase will definitely be an improvement. You really have to weigh, is this worth it? Is it going to be worth for me to pick these up now until I get my high Allegan breaches of aiming? Because I'm not going to waste the sand of time on this 1 week when it could go to another raid member. That's another really big thing in this patch is knowing how much sand and oils of time you have available to you for gear upgrades. Because if it's not going to be available to you for a long time, then expect to use a lot of high Allegan stuff that drops from the earlier turns until you can start beating 7 and 8 and getting your hands on some oils and sands more readily. So that is really the big thing. That is the big crutch, is make sure you're not sacrificing too much accuracy when you're going for these gear upgrades. And also be prepared to buy different foods. I mean, as you can see with the best in slot list here, buns in a blanket. I'm not using deviled eggs or Apkalu omelets because my critical hit rate is already so low, and by comparison, I'm not getting all that much stats. Deviled eggs, 24, or let's say Apkalu omelet. We don't even get enough critical hit rate with the best in slot gear to use Apkalu omelets to their full potential. We really can only make use of deviled eggs as Bard. So I know from a Bard perspective that 16 determination will give you more potential damage output than 24 critical hit rate on average. Unless RNG is on your side and this 24 ends up making the percentage difference between a bunch of bloodletter procs, that this 16 determination is going to be better. It's really all about balancing accuracy, making sure accuracy is a priority, and then focusing on your other stats once you can meet those accuracy requirements regardless of gear upgrades. So in my opinion, spending your points on accuracy upgrades that are also item level upgrades are by far a priority. And hopefully this video helped you guys understand what the gearing process is like. Don't just mindlessly spend your points on the wrong pieces of gear. Really look at your stats, try and ask around with what you need for accuracy requirements, and you should be much more sound. But anyway guys, thank you for watching. I'm going to do more best in slot videos in the coming weeks about the other classes. So hopefully this was a decent guide for you. I understand it was a little bit lengthy, but let's be honest. I love to hear myself talk. But anyway, guys, thanks for watching. Be sure to like, favorite, subscribe, and share for more Final Fantasy videos. Be sure to check out the rest of my channel for more information. Also, be sure to like me on Facebook, follow me on Twitter, where you can get regular updates about what I'm up to, and also follow me on Twitch, where I do occasionally live stream Final Fantasy XIV. But anyway, guys, thank you for watching, and until next time, take care.